In this particular session in the organization bureaucracy and control, we will talk about the bureaucracy in the changing world, approaches towards the bureaucracy versus the other forms of control, organizational decline and the downsizing, a model of the decline stages, techniques to facilitate the smooth downsizing, how to mighty organizations fail, the enduring the logic of organizational success, and as usual the case study. Here we will discussing the two case studies, Salvation Army and the Yahoo Get to Work, then research paper, book recommendation and references. The bureaucracy worked for the individual age. The system no longer works for the today's challenges. So, organizations face the new challenges and need to respond quickly. Over bureaucratization is evident in the inefficiencies of the large US government organizations. Narrowly defined jobs and roles limit creativity, flexibility and the rapid response. Some organizations are using the temporary structures for the emergency or the crisis situations are there. So, approaches to busting the bureaucracy is the small geographic based team is there. Increasing the authority of workers. By increasing the authority of workers, organizations can check the unnecessary red tapeism that is the central to the bureaucracy is there. The increasing professionalism of the employee is attacking the bureaucracy. Professionalism is defined as the length of the formal training and experience of employees. Formalization is not needed because the professional training regularizes a high standard of the behavior for the employees, which acts as a substitute for bureaucracy is there. So, bureaucratic control the use of the rules, policies, hierarchy of authorities and written documentation, standardization and the other bureaucratic mechanisms to standardize the behavior and the assess performance. The primary purpose of the bureaucratic rules and the procedures is to standardize and control the employee behavior. To make bureaucratic control work, managers must have the authority to maintain the control over the organization. Weber identified three types of the authority that could explain the creation and control of a large organization. So, rational legal authority, traditional authority and a charismatic authority. Now, when we are talking about the market control occurs when the price competition is used to evaluate the output and the productivity of an organization or its major departments and the divisions. The idea of market control originated in economics. A dollar price is an efficient form of control because managers can compare the prices and profits to evaluate the efficiency of their corporation. Top managers nearly always use the price mechanism to evaluate the performance in their corporations. The use of the market control requires that outputs be sufficiently explicit for a price to be assigned and that competition exists. Without competition, the price does not accurately reflect the internal efficiency. When we talk about the clan control is the use of the social characteristics such as the shared values, commitment, traditions and beliefs to control the behavior. Organizations that use the clan control have the strong cultures that emphasize the shared values and trust among the employees are there. So, clan control is important when the ambiguity and uncertainty are high. So, high uncertainty means the organization cannot put a price on its services and the things change so fast that the rules and regulations are not able to specify every correct behavior. There is a strong pressure to conform to the group norms which govern a wide range of employees' behaviors. Managers act primarily as mentors, role models and the agents for the transmitting values are there. So, organizational control strategies are the bureaucratic and when we talk about the bureaucratic organizational control strategy, then it goes to the rules, standards, hierarchy, legitimate and authority is there. When we talk about the market strategies, then it goes for the prices, competition, exchange relationship is there. When we talk about the clan, then the tradition, shared values and beliefs and the trust is there. So, therefore, here we see that is the whenever we want to make the organizational control strategies, then we have to decide that is the what type of the dimensions we have to consider. My suggestion here is this, that is the when we want to control these strategies, then organizational control strategies, then in that case we have to have a mix of it. So, we cannot only go by the bureaucratic system is there, because the if you go by this only bureaucratic system, then you will not be able to change as per the price competition exchange relationship, right, because the price is a dynamic factor. And in the dynamic you have to sometimes you on the basis of your competition you have to decide whether you will go by this the price high or price low, and therefore, in that case it becomes important that is we are making this the organization which will be having the control strategies with the market strategies also. So, now it will be within the rules and standards are there. Naturally, when we talk about these the giant organizations especially, then we find out that is these rule standards, they are highly dominating. As your size of the organization increases, you will find that is the your organization is becoming more and more bureaucratic is there. Now, the beauty of the successful organizations are that is they keep the flexibility also. So, here this particular aspect that is about this the clan aspect is there. So, the clan type of these organizational control strategies that will also making the difference is there. So, that is why it should be the flexible also. So, you have to make the bureaucracy plus market and plus clan is required. So, therefore, in that case when we are talking about that what should be the organizational control strategies, the philosophy. The philosophy of the organization is now we have to also understand that is each type of the control strategies are having their own advantages and disadvantages are there. Many times this in the session previous sessions also I have talked about the red tapeism, and whenever there is a red tapeism in the organization structure itself, then it will take a lot of time to take the decisions, and it might be possible that is the organization will find difficulty in survival also. So, I would like to give the example, like for example the prices is there. So, therefore, in that case because of the competition or the exchange relationship or the economic recession, especially the external environmental factors, and as the external environmental factor changes, you like the competition, suppliers, vendors, cost of the raw material and all. So, your price will be having the required attention. But if your rules and standards they do not allow for a particular period, suppose it is a period for this financial year, the prices will be remaining this. So, this will be a very harsh bureaucratic system will be there. So, what is required? We have to develop the trust. The trust, values, shared values and beliefs are very necessary, and these shared values and beliefs will give a window to come out from that bureaucratic system and work according to the market situation. Now, whenever we are talking about the organization declining and the downsizing is there, here I would like to mention that is the when organization declines, and this is the life cycle of the organization. The organization goes like this, right. So, it is the growth or the this is the embryonic or the starting up, right. This is the growth, this is the maturity, and this is a decline, right. Now, the downsizing actually when it reaches to the maturity, and then the organizations think of this the downsizing is there. My suggestion here is that is this life cycle of this organization that can be changed, and here if we change to this organization's life cycle, then definitely in that case we will find that is it is going to be a different another life cycle will be there. So, it will be like this that is the one is this, and in spite of this the another one starts from here. So, when it reaches here to the maturity, another life cycle from the growth it starts. For example, the product diversification. So, whenever you are going for the product diversification, when the energy sector especially. So, when the traditional energy sectors are there, thermal power system is there like in India, and now we are going for the alternate hydro energy centers or the solar energy centers. However, may not be for the nuclear energy, but in that case this growth will start from here, and here from the maturity it will be going for from this place to the these particular organizations. So, what is important is this that is downsizing necessary. However, the term organizational decline is used to define a condition in which a substantial absolute decrease in an organization resources base occurs over time, and organization decline is often associated with the environmental decline. in the sense that an organization domain experience either a reduction in size such as a shrinkage in the customer demand or erosion of a city's tax base, or a reduction in the share such as a shift in the customer demand is there, and as a result of which the organization starts the declining, and most of the organizations they think of the downside. But if the organization is proactive, organization understands that the external like the shrinkage in customer demand has to be there. In the products we find, that is the products with the development of the new technologies, development of the slim products, the old products are getting replaced from in the shelf. So therefore these type of these changes are expected. So what proactive organizations do? Then when we talk about the successful organizations, then they develop their another product, they develop their another the investment provisions. For example, when the cost of the city's tax base is increasing, then in that case they come out with the reducing the cost of the production is there, or that is whenever there is a reduction in the shape of the organization, then the organization expands, maybe the geographically also. So maybe the extent to the another horizon where these type of the products will be acceptable. So in general, three factors are considered causes the organization decline is there. The first we will take the organizational atrophy. So atrophy occurs when the organizations grow older and become inefficient and the overly bureaucratized, right. So I mentioned at the time of that is the bureaucracy, market and clan control strategies, that is many organizations, large organizations, they become old and they become the inefficient. In India also we find that is the some of the power sector organizations they have become the old and because of the overly bureaucratized. So because of this the bureaucratized of the organization that making these the atrophy occurs. Now often atrophy follows a long period of success because this is an old organization. Old organization means this organization has survived for a long period of time. So how it has survived? It is because of the success. So because of the successes of the organization they have been successful. So we take success for the granted. So here when organization is having a legacy of success, then organization may get relaxed, and as a result of which then they takes the success for this granted and become attached to the practice and structures that worked in the past and fails to adapt to the change in the environment is there. So therefore in that case it is very important that is the this change becoming a very successful organizations because of their this long legacy of the success. They are making this a particular practices and structures, but now that changing that structure is it becoming very difficult, because the downsizing, when you say that is the downsizing is required, means changing the structure, but that is not that easy, and that because and then fails changes in the environment is there. This another factor which is considering the cause of the organizational decline is the vulnerability. Vulnerability reflects an organization's strategic inability to prosper in its environment is there. Now you see that is a success is a continuous event. You cannot just one can be successful and that success will be long lasting. No, because now the new life cycle starts, and therefore in that again you have to compete, again you have to make your control strategies. So that strategic move is required after your grand success. But if the strategic move is not required, then after some time the organization start declining. So this strategic inability to prosper in its environment, that is causing the vulnerability for an organization, and this often happens to small organizations. They are not yet fully established, and therefore as a result of which while the organization atrophy for the older organizations, while the vulnerability is causing this the organization decline is about the strategic inability is there. Now the third one, which is equally important, is the environmental decline or the competition is there. So it is not that you are only growing, the others are also growing. So, environmental decline refers to the reduced energy and the resources available to support an organization. So, when the environment has less capacity to support organizations, the organizations has to enter the scale down operations or shift to the another domain is there. Here we find that that is these particular resources which are available the organization then in that case they are becoming the environmental the support is required. Now these challenges of the environmental will be there, and these are the external parameters which will be affecting your organization. Now the organization has to either scale down operations or shift to the another domain is there as I mentioned, but only my submission is here is there is this shift to the another domain that should be proactively done, and that will depend on the vision of the leader. If the leader is visionary, he will understand that is the it is going to be the change and my product will not be more acceptable, and therefore he becomes the proactive, and it is a continuous process, right. So, therefore, environment is keep on changing, and whatever environment is today we understand that it will not be tomorrow, right. So, maybe a periodic cycle. So, that periodic cycle once is visionary leader, they understand this periodic cycle. When they understand this periodic cycle, they will be able to come out with this particular strategy, that is how to come and do this the declining the organization decline that can be stopped. Now, in detail we will discuss about these declining stages are there. Actually there are the 5 stages are there: blinded, inaction, faulty actions, crisis, and the dissolution is there. So, declining begins from this the blinded stage is there. Now, here successful organization which is given in the red, you will find that is it is a continuously is growing, right, but that has become static, right. So, these successful organizations from the blinded to the dissolution they are going for this the organizational performance is there. But when we talk about the appropriate organizational responses, so why they could have been successful, why this particular the rate that has been maintained, it is because of the prompt action. As we know, there is the internal and environmental factors that will affect, right. So, your resources will affect the situations which are not under your control, environmental especially, that will also affect. So, what is required? So, whenever the starts declining, organization will take the prompt action, and this prompt action is to be taken into the stage between the 1 and 2. If you are taking the stages 1 and 2 prompt action, you again will go become the successful organization. But here the prompt action is not taken, declining organization performance because there is an inaction. So, that vision and strategic ability that is required. So, in long term strategies are you are able to match, then in that case you will go for this prompt action, and therefore, you will not go for the inaction stages there. In these those organizations, but some organizations even in the faulty action they try to take the correct action is there, some more declining is there, and then they take this particular the correct action, and then they are making the successful organizational performance is there. But here if the not faulty action has been taken correct action, then again it will be more declining. If it is declining again, and now the crisis comes. So, you have to do or die, you have to take the actions, right. For that, like the downsizing, no organization will like to do the downsizing, but if organization has reached to the crisis situation, then definitely in that case reorganization is required, and the downsizing is the reorganization is required, right, one of the methods. However, I would like to suggest some more methods of the reorganizations are there. For example, to be more creative and reduce the cost wherever possible, or the going for the new product development is possible, or the if here the businesses exploring the new opportunities of businesses are there, then effective reorganizations can be done. But still if you do that, then in this stage also, that is in the crisis stage also, still you will be successful, organizational performance will be there. But even then in that case, either you are not able to take that decision, or the organizations are not getting the support from these the other stakeholders like the government, or from the society, or from the unions and all, and therefore that reorganization is not becoming possible. Maybe the shortage of the main machine, material, money, method, minutes, that 6M's resources, and you are not able to manage that reorganization, then again the organization will decline, and there is no choice, and you have to dissolution. Now, the strategically we will understand in details also all these steps are there. So, this model suggests that decline, if not managed properly, can move through the 5 stages resulting in organization dissolution. And the first one is the blended stage. The first stage of the decline is the internal and external change that threatens the long term survival and may require the organization to tighten up, and here here organizations the enforcement is becoming very important, and leaders often miss the signals of the decline at this point because they are having the success stories, and therefore I do not care attitude comes, and that is my organization is a large organization. No, it will take years together, and this is just a temporary declining, and leaders often miss these signals of the declining, and the solution is to develop the effective scanning and the control system. We have talked about the bureaucratic system, market system, clan systems, and but immediate action is required. And you have to develop the effective, immediately you get the signals that is no, I have to develop and otherwise my organization will decline. So, effective scanning and control system you have to implement, and that indicate when something is wrong. So, but in the beginning itself, dear friends, like this is the blinded stage is there. So, in the blinded stage you should not be blind, rather than you should be awake. Second is the inaction stage. The second stage of decline is called the inaction, in which the denial occurs despite signs of the deteriorating performance. Leaders may try to persuade the employees that all is well, and therefore, in that case that inaction stage the leaders have to understand, that is if like in the after blinded stage, leaders when they miss the signals, but when they understand that is the signs of deteriorating performance is there, leaders may try to persuade that is the employees that all is well, and here it is not the really the all is well, and here the actions are the prompt actions are required. Those organizations which will be having the very prompt actions, then again they will be joining the successful organizations pool. Third declining stage is the faulty action stage. In the third stage, the organization is facing the serious problem, and indicators of the poor performance cannot be ignored, and failure to adjust to the declining spiral at this point can lead to a organizational failure. So, actually you are getting the signals, but your leader has to catch that particular signal. You have to catch that signal that something is declining, and then action is required. So, therefore, a major mistake of this stage decreases the organization's chance for a turnaround is there. Now, you are reaching to a stage from where there is no U-turn. So, therefore, in that case you are required to ensure that is you adjust to the situation, you sense that you poor performance, and here you have to make the adjustments are required, whatever the challenges are there, monetary or non-monetary, but you have to make those challenges are to be met. So, the effective leaders, successful organizations, they immediately understand. Rather, I will say they will not reach to the faulty action even, they will take in the blinded stage only, they will take the prompt actions will be there, and they will be proactive. But even if an organization has reached to the poor performance, but here organization should not ignore, otherwise it will reach to the fourth stage, and that is the crisis stage. the organization may experience the chaos, efforts to go back to the basics, sharp changes and the anger. So, therefore, at this stage the only solution is the major reorganization is there, and that is why you find that is the unrest in the organizations that will be there. So, dissolution stage is there, the stage of decline is irreversible. So, the effect that is to close down in the dissolution stage down the organization is in an orderly fashion and reduce the separate trauma of employees as there. So, properly managing the organization declines is necessary if an organization aims to avoid dissolution. Some of the most difficult decisions pertain to the downsizing, which refers to the intentionally reducing the size of company's workforce. The economic fluctuations has made downsizing a common practice among the corporations. Re-engineering projects, mergers and acquisition, global competition and the trend toward the outsourcing have all led to the job reductions are there. So, techniques to facilitate the smooth downsizing are there to the some managers communication more not less to think the less that is said about it a pending layoff, the better, but the rumors can be much more damaging than the open communication. They provide the assistance to the displaced workers. The organization has a responsibility to help the displaced workers cope with the loss of their jobs. The organization can provide training, severance package, extended benefits and the outplacement assistance. Help the survivors thrive. Many people experience the guilt, anger, confusion and sadness after the loss of the colleagues, and the leaders should acknowledge these feelings. Why do the multi-organizations fails? Jim Collins expanded the prior research how ones can get the organizations fall and some recover while the others completely obliterate themselves. The following are the 5 stages of decline that will lead an organization to its doom. That is, hubris born of success is there. When the past accomplishment creates a sense of individual invulnerability and a guarantee of the future success, hubris has set in and it is the false sense of the security. Another characteristics of the stage 1 decline is the loss of the adventurous, open-minded, searching orientation for the continuous learning. Answers are believed to be found in the years of experience, which might be useful yet often can be blinding in the new situations. Undisciplined pursuit more is there. Energy and resources are stimulated by the blind or the unblinded ambitions. So, creativity, aggression and the fear, unsubstandard expectations lead to the strained resources and the diminishing performance. Examples are the Motorola and the Rubbermaid, which invented more products than could be marketed successfully, while the organizations blindly fell towards their demise. So, denial of the risk and the peril. The third stage begins the process of losing one's center, where the tendency is to amplify the positive and discount the negative. So, huge downside risk is incurred based on the ambiguous data leading to and the erosion of healthy team dynamics are there. Grasping the for salvation. So, companies in the fourth stage know that they are into the significant trouble. In turn, its board will often look to a new fast moving CEO who will launch a new vision. Some look to a dramatic culture revolution and the game changing acquisition or a number of other silver bullet solutions, and the capitulation to the irrelevance or the death. The fifth stage sharpens the echoes of insolvency into a stark reality. The demise of the organization is at the hand, and enter the leadership that is prepares for a fire sale, while it hunts for a saving organization or unable to capitulate to the impending demises. So, ending logic of the organizational success is that is how can a company survive and thrive for the more than 100 years? By studying the performance of Europe's the oldest and the best companies over a very long term, the studier identified 4 key factors that accounts for their success, that is exploit before you are explore, and therefore, in that case that is the neglect the exploration incremental innovation is certainly vital to the long term survival. Companies can compensate for a lack of exploration capabilities by being more efficient explorer, but they are not able over the long run to make up for a lack of exploitation capabilities through the better exploration. And the second is the diversity, but do it carefully. So, diversify as I mentioned, but it is the here the warning has been given, that is the companies needed to expand their portfolios to dampen the impact of the cyclical business, and logic of such organization is quite compelling. However, many of these acquisitions are often doomed to fall as new companies have the resources and capabilities to compete successfully in many diverse industries. have a long memory. So, powerful experiences developed during enduring stories that are based on the from generation to generations. Successful companies naturally have the good stories to tell, and they tell them constantly. This practice helps motivate the people and inspires them to act in the ways that produce the success in the past and are likely to continue it in the future is there. And finally, be conservative about the change. So, conventional wisdom says that change is inevitable and it is better to lead the change than follow it. However, great companies beg to differ. They go through the radical change only at very selective moments in their history. Jumping into the every new management wave is not for them. They use their core values and principles as the guidelines and approach change in a culturally sensitive manner that requires patience to work through. When major changes is unavoidable, these companies engage their entire organizations are there. This is the case study which you can refer and understand, that is the how organizations that can create the trust to be responsible, and it is flexible also to meet the making the survivals is there. This is the another case study, Yahoo Get to Work. I am sure that these two case studies will help you, that is the how we can make these changes, what time changes, and how make the organization more sustainable. This is a research paper, leadership in terms of the organizational decline, a literature review of the antecedents, consequences and the moderators. This research paper will be helping you to understand the research findings of related to the organizational sustainability. This is a book, How the Mighty Fall and why some companies never gives in, this by the Jim Collins, and this book will be helping you to understand, that is the at what stage what actions are to be taken by the organization. These are the references. Please refer these references for the further detailing to understand this concept of this declining of the organization and the downsizing. I am sure that you will be able to take your organization to the successful performance. Thank you.